Do you ever wonder if you've been marked? You survived the spectral sales event. You've seen the haunting results of life consumed by cheap thrills and impulse buys, courtesy of Wally Wimp and the Emporium. Now we move beyond the satire. Tonight, we open the door to the true source of that mundane dread. This is the launchpad for a brand new series, Steel Shadows, Visions of Richard Matheson. Across 10 episodes, we will analyze how Matheson's iconic tales, from robot boxers and steel to the road rage paranoia of Duel, directly mirrored the shadows in his own life. We'll explore the real life trauma of World War II veteran, the painful losses that informed his domestic horror, and the Hollywood frustrations that fueled his sharpest satire. The fear we confront tonight is more fundamental. It's the realization that you are merely expected to conform, expected to vanish into the relentless pattern of the ordinary. Prepare to venture into the mind of a master, prepare to see the world as Matheson did, where the uncanny twist is never far from the mundane truth. The curtain is up, the shadows are gathering. SL Tonight, Anthology, begins. Good evening, seekers of the ultimate abyss, and welcome to SL Tonight, where we plunge into the apocalyptic depths of Richard Matheson, the pioneer who penned 14 novels and 16 Twilight Zone episodes. I'm Felix Lebeski, your host for Still Shadows, Visions of Richard Matheson, a bonus episode celebrating the man whose stories lampoon his career. World War II scars fueling doomsday visions, pulp roots evolving into critiques of human decline. In the 1950s, Matheson was in California writing for magazines like F and SF, inspired by atomic age journals and Hiroshima headlines that had made him ponder humanity's self-inflicted end. Descent grew from that despair, a tale of characters facing a sunset marking the world's demise, reflecting his aim to blend sci-fi with resignation. Published in 1954 in the magazine of fantasy and science fiction, it captures his skill at turning inevitability into introspection, drawn from Korean War news and his father's immigration tales of endurance. Behind the scenes, Matheson collaborated with Twilight Zone producers, but this story stayed in pulps, reflecting his frustration with Hollywood's limits on existential themes. It's a window into what drew him to horror, the fear that society's flaws led to dissent, a theme that deepened with civil rights struggles in the 1960s. Matheson's stories of collective madness paralleled the movement's battle against systemic downfall, a Chekhov's gun firing as a call to change before the final curtain. Let's embrace this final plunge. It was impulse. Les pulled the car over to the curb and stopped it. He twisted the shiny key and the motor stopped. He turned to look across Sunset Boulevard, across the green hills that drop away steeply to the ocean. Look, Ruth, he said. It was late afternoon. Far out across the Palisades, I could see the Pacific shimmering with reflections of the red sun. The sky was a tapestry dripping gold and crimson. Streamers of billowy, pink-edged clouds hung across it. It's so pretty, Ruth said. His hand lifted from the car seat to cover hers. She smiled at him a moment, and then the smile faded as they watched the sunset again. It's hard to believe, Ruth said. What? He asked. Then we'll never see another? He looked soberly at the bright-colored sky. Then he smiled, but not in pleasure. Didn't we read they'd have artificial sunsets? He said. You'll look out the window of your room and see a sunset. Didn't we read that somewhere? It won't be the same. Will it, Les? How could it be? I wonder what it will really be like. A lot of people would like to know. They sat in silence watching the sun go down. It's funny, he thought. You try to get underneath the real meaning of a moment like this, but you can't. It passes, and when it's over, you don't know or feel any more than you did before. It's just one more moment added to the past. You don't appreciate what you have until it's taken away. He looked over at Ruth and saw her looking solemnly and strangely at the ocean. Honey, he said quietly, and gave her, with the word, his love. She looked at him and tried to smile. We'll still be together, he told her. I know, don't pay any attention to me. But I will, he said, leaning over to kiss her cheek. I'll look after you. Over the earth, or under it, she said. Bill came out of the house to meet them. Les looked at his friend as he steered the car into the open concrete space by the garage. He wondered how Bill felt about leaving the house he'd just finished paying for. Free and clear after 18 years of payments, and tomorrow it would be rubble. Life is a bastard, he thought, switching off the engine. Hello, kid, Bill said to him. Hi, beautiful, to Ruth. Hello, handsome, Ruth said. They got out of the car and Ruth took the package off the front seat. Bill's daughter Jenny came running out of the house. Hi, Les. Hi, Ruth. Say, Bill, whose car are we going to take tomorrow? Les asked him. I don't know, kid. We'll talk it over when Fred and Grace get here. Carry me piggyback, Les? Jenny demanded. He swung her up. I'm glad we don't have a child. I'd hate to take a child down there tomorrow. Mary looked up from the stove as they moved in. They all said hello, and Ruth put the package on the table. What's that? Mary asked. I baked a pie, Ruth told her. Oh, you didn't have to do that, Mary said. Why not? Maybe the last one I'll ever bake. It's not that bad. They'll have stoves down there. There'll be so much rationing, it won't be worth the effort, Ruth said. The way my true love bakes, that'll be good fortune, Bill said. Is that so? Mary glared at her grinning husband, who patted her behind and moved into the living room with Les. Ruth stayed in the kitchen to help. Les put down Bill's daughter. Jenny ran out. Mama, I'm going to help you make dinner. How nice, they heard Mary say. Les sank down on the big cherry-colored couch, and Bill took the chair across the room by the window. You come up through Santa Monica? He asked. No, we came along the Coast Highway, Les said. Why? Jesus, you should have gone through Santa Monica, Bill said. Everybody's going crazy, breaking store windows, turning cars upside down, setting fire to everything. I was down there this morning. I'm lucky I got the car back. Some jokers wanted to roll it down Wilshire Boulevard. What's the matter? Are they crazy? Les said. You think that this was the end of the world. For some people, it is, Bill said. What do you think MGM is going to do down there? Make cartoons? Sure, said Les. Tom and Jerry in the middle of the earth. Bill shook his head. Business is going out of its mind. There's no place to set up everything down there. Everybody's flipping. Look at that paper. Les leaned forward and took the newspaper off the coffee table. It was 3 days old. The main stories, of course, covered the details of the descent, the entry schedules at the various entrances, the one in Hollywood, the one in Reseda, the one in downtown Los Angeles. A large type across 8 columns, the front page headline read, Remember, the bomb falls at sunset. The newspapers have been carrying the warning for a week, and tomorrow was the day. The rest of the stories were about robbery, rape, arson, and murder. People just can't take it, Bill said. They have to flip. Sometimes I'll feel like flipping myself, said Les. Why? Bill said with a shrug. So we live underground instead of over it. What the hell will change? Television will still be lousy. Don't tell me we aren't even leaving that above ground. No, didn't you see? Bill said. He pushed up and walked over to the coffee table. Picked up the paper Les had dropped. Where the hell is it? Muttered to himself, ruffling through the pages. There, Bill held out the paper. Television to go on, scientists promise. Consolation? Les said. Sure, Bill said, tossing down the paper. Now we'll be able to watch the bomb smear us. He went back to his chair. Les shook his head. Who's going to build television sets down there? Kid, there'll be everything down there. What's up, beautiful? Ruth stood in the archway that opened on the living room. Anybody want wine? She asked. Beer? Bill said beer and Les said wine, then Bill went on. Maybe that promise of television is a little far-fetched, but otherwise it'll be business as usual. Oh, maybe it'll be on a different level, but it'll be there. Christ, somebody's going to want something for all the money they've invested in the tunnels. Isn't their life enough? Bill went on talking about what he'd read concerning life in the tunnel, the exchange setup, the transportation system, the plans for substitute food production, and all the endless skein of details that went into the creation of a new society and a new world. Les didn't listen. He sat looking past his friend at the purple and red sky that topped the shifting dark blue of the ocean. He heard the steady flow of Bill's words without their content. He heard the women moving in the kitchen. What would it be like, he wondered. Nothing like this. No aquamarine broadloom wall to wall, no vivid colors, no fireplace with copper screening. Most of all, no picture windows with the beautiful world outside for them to watch. He felt his throat tighten slowly. Tomorrow, and tomorrow, and tomorrow. Ruth came in with the glasses and handed Bill his beer and Les his wine. Her eyes met those of her husband for a moment, and she smiled. He wanted to pull her down suddenly and bury his face in her hair. He wanted to forget. But she returned to the kitchen, and he said, "What?" to Bill's question. I said, "I guess we'll go to the Reseda entrance." "I guess it's as good as any other," Liz said. "Well, I figure the Hollywood and the downtown entrances will be jammed," Bill said. "Christ, you already threw down that wine." Les felt a slow warmth run down into his stomach as he put down the glass. "This thing getting to you, kid?" Bill asked. "Isn't it getting to you?" "Oh, who knows? Maybe I'll just make noise to hide what it's doing to me, I guess. I feel it for Ginny more than anything else. She's only 5. Outside, they heard a car pull up in front of the house, and Mary called to say that Fred and Grace were there. Bill pressed palms on his knees and pushed up. "Don't let it get you," he said with a grin. "You're from New York. It won't be any different from the subway." Les made a sound of disgruntled amusement. 40 years in the subway, he said. "It's not that bad," Bill said, starting out of the room. "Scientists claim they'll find some way to de-radiate the country and get things growing again." "When?" "Maybe 20 years," Bill said, and then he went out to welcome his guests. "How do we know what they really look like?" Grace said. "All the pictures they print are only artists' conceptions of what the living quarters are like down there. There may be holes in the wall for all we know." "Don't be a knocker, kid. Be a booster," Bill told her. "Ugh," Grace grunted. "I think you're oblivious to the terror of this horrible descent into the ground." They were all in the living room full of steak and salad and biscuits and pie and coffee. Les sat on a cherry-colored couch, his arms round Ruth's slender waist. Grace and Fred sat on a yellow studio couch, Mary and Bill in separate chairs. Jenny was in a bed, warmth filtered from the fireplace where a low, steady log fire burned. Fred and Bill drank beer from cans, and the rest drank wine. "Not oblivious, kid," Bill said. "Just adjusting. We have to do it. We might as well make the best of it." Easy said," Grace repeated. "But I, for one, certainly don't look forward to living in those tunnels. I expect to be miserable. I don't know how Fred feels, but those are my sentiments. I don't think it really matters to Fred." "Fred is an adjuster," Bill said. "Fred is not a knocker." Fred smiled a little and said nothing. He was a small man sitting by his wife like a patient boy with his mother in the dentist's office. "Oh," Grace again. "How can you be so blasé about it is beyond me. How can it be anything but bad? No theaters, no restaurants, no traveling." "No beauty parlors," said Bill with a short laugh. "Yes, no beauty parlors," said Grace. "You don't think that's important to a woman? Well, we'll have our loved ones," Mary said. "I think that's the most important, and we'll be alive." Grace shrugged. "All right, we'll be alive. We'll be together," she said. "But I'm afraid I just can't call that life. Living in a cellar the rest of my life." "Don't go," Bill said. "Show 'em how tough you are." "Very funny," Grace said. "But some people will decide not to go down there," Les said. "If they're crazy," said Grace. "Ugh, what a hideous way to die." "Maybe it's better than going underground," Bill said. "Who knows? Maybe a lot of people will spend a quiet day at home tomorrow." "Quiet?" said Grace. "Don't worry. Fred and I will be down in those tunnels bright and early tomorrow." "I'm not worried," said Bill. They were quiet for a moment, and then Bill said, "The Reseda entrance all right with everybody? We might as well decide now." Fred made a small palms-up gesture with his hands. "All right with me," he said. "Whatever the majority decides. Kid, let's face it. You're the most important person we got here. An electrician's going to be a big man down there," Bill said. Fred smiled. "That's okay. Anything you decide." "You know," Bill said, "I wonder what the hell we mailmen are going to do down there." "And we bank tellers," Les said. "Oh, there'll be money down there," Bill said. "Where America goes, money goes. Now what about the car? We can only take one for 6. Shall we take mine? It's the biggest." "Why not ours?" Grace said. "Doesn't matter a damn to me," Bill said. "We can't take him down with us anyway." Grace stared bitterly at the fire, her frail hands opening and closing in her lap. "Oh, why don't we stop the bomb? Why don't we attack first?" "Can't stop it now," Les said. "I wonder if they have tunnels too," said Mary. "Sure. Probably sitting in their houses right now, just like us, drinking wine and wondering what it'll be like to go underground." "Not them," Grace said bitterly. "What did they care?" Bill smiled dryly. "They care." "There doesn't seem any point," Ruth said. Then they all sat in silence, watching their last fire of a cool California evening. Ruth rested her head on Lester's shoulder as he slowly stroked her blonde hair. Bill and Mary caught each other's eye and smiled a little. Fred sat and stared with gentle, melancholy eyes at the glowing logs, while Grace opened up and closed her hands and looked very old. And outside the stars shone down for a million times the millionth year. Ruth and Les were sitting on their living room floor listening to records when Bill sounded his horn. For a moment they looked at each other without a word, a little frightened. the sunlight filtering between the blinds and falling like golden ladders across her legs. What can I say? He wondered suddenly. Are there any words in the world that can make this minute any easier for her? Ruth moved against him quickly and then clung together as hard as they could. Outside, the horn blew again. We'd better go, Les said quietly. All right, she said. They stood up, and Les went to the front door. We'll be right out, he called. Ruth moved into the bedroom and got their coats and 2 small suitcases they were allowed to take. All their furniture, their clothes, their books, their records, they had to be left behind. Then she went back to the living room. Les was turning off the record player. I wish we could take more books, he said. They'll have libraries, honey, she said. I know, it just isn't the same. He helped her on with her coat, and she helped him on with his. Their apartment was very quiet and warm. It's so nice, she said. He looked at her a moment as if in question, then hurriedly he picked up the suitcases and opened the door. Go on, baby, he said. At the door, she turned and looked back. Abruptly, she walked over to the record player and turned it on. She stood there motionlessly until the music sounded, and then she went back to the door and closed it firmly behind them. Why'd you do that? Les asked. Took his arms, and they started down the path to the car. I don't know, she said. Maybe I just want to leave our home as if it were alive. The soft breeze blew against them as they walked, and overhead palm trees swayed their ponderous leaves. It's a nice day, she said. Yes, it is, he said, and her fingers tightened on his arm. Bill opened the door for them. Hop in, kids, and we'll get rolling. Jenny got on her knees in the front seat and talked to Les and Ruth as the car started up the street. Ruth turned and watched the apartment house disappear. I felt the same way about our house, Mary said. Don't fret, Ma, Bill said. We'll make out down there. What's down there? Jenny asked. God knows, said Bill. Then, Daddy joking, baby. Down there means down there. Say, Bill, do you think we'll be living near each other in the tunnels? Les asked. I don't know, kid. It goes by district. We'll be pretty close together, I guess, but Fred and Grace won't, living way the hell over in Venice the way they do. Can't say I'm sorry, Mary said. I don't relish the idea of listening to Grace complain for the next 20 years. Oh, Grace is all right, Bill said. All she needs is a good swift kick where it counts once in a while. Traffic was heavy on the main boulevards that ran east for the 2 city entrances. Bill drove slowly along Lincoln Boulevard towards Venice. Outside of Jenny's chattering, none of them spoke. Ruth and Les sat close to each other, hands clasped, eyes straight ahead. Today, the words kept running through their mind. We're going underground. We're going underground today. At first, nothing happened when Bill honked the horn. Then the front door of the little house jerked open, and Grace came running wildly across the broad lawn, still wearing her dressing gown and slippers, her gray-black hair hanging down in long braids. Oh my God, what happened? Mary said as Bill pushed quickly from the car to meet Grace. He pulled open the gate in time to catch Grace as one of her slipper heels dug into the soft earth, throwing her off balance. What's wrong? He asked, bracing her with his hands. It's Fred, she cried. Bill's face went blank, and his gaze jumped suddenly to the house standing silent and white in the sunshine. Les and Mary got out of the car quickly. What's wrong with... Bill started, cutting off his words nervously. He won't go, Grace cried, her face a mask of twisted fright. They found him, as Grace said he'd been all morning, fists clenched, sitting motionless in his easy chair by the window that overlooked the garden. Bill walked over to him and laid a hand on his thin shoulder. What's up, buddy? He asked. Fred looked up, a smile starting at the corner of his small mouth. Hi, he said quietly. You're not going? Bill asked. Fred took a breath and seemed about to say something else, then he stopped. No, he said as if he were politely refusing peas at dinner. Oh my God, I told you, Grace sobbed. He's insane. All right, Grace, take it easy, Bill snapped irritably, and she pressed the soaked handkerchief to her mouth. Mary put her arm around Grace. Why not, pal? Bill asked his friend. Another smile twitched momentarily on Fred's lips. He shrugged slightly. Don't want to, he said. Oh, Fred, how could you do this to me? Grace moaned, standing nervously by the front door, right hand to her throat. Bill's mouth tightened, but he kept his eyes on Fred's motionless face. What about Grace? He asked. Grace should go. I want her to go. I don't want her to die. How can I live down there alone? Grace sobbed. Fred didn't answer. He just sat there looking straight ahead as if he felt embarrassed by all this attention, as if he were trying to gather in his mind the right thing to say. Look, he started, I know this is terrible and it's arrogant, but I just can't go down there. His mouth grew firm. I won't. Bill straightened up with a weary breath. Well, he said hopelessly. I. Fred had opened his right fist and was uncrumpling a small square of paper. Maybe this will say what I mean. Bill took it and read it. Then he looked down at Fred and patted his shoulder once. Okay, pal. And he put the paper in his coat. He looked at Grace. Rest if you're coming, he said. Fred! She almost screamed his name. Are you going to do this terrible thing to me? Your husband is staying, Bill told her. Do you want to stay with him? I don't want to die. Bill looked at her a moment and then turned away. Mary, help her dress, he said. While they went to the car, Grace sobbed and stumbled on Mary's arms. Fred stood in the front doorway and watched his wife leave. She hadn't kissed him or embraced him, only retreated from his goodbye with a sob of angry fear. He stood there without moving a muscle, and the breeze ruffled his thin hair. When they were all in the car, Bill took the paper out of his pocket. I'm going to read what your husband wrote, he said flatly, and he read, If a man dies with the sun in his eyes, he dies a man. If a man goes with the dirt on his nose, he only dies. Grace looked at Bill with bleak eyes, her hands twisted endlessly in her lap. Mama, why isn't Uncle Fred coming? Jeannie asked as Bill started the car and made a sharp U-turn. He wants to stay, was all Mary said. The car picked up speed and headed towards Lincoln Boulevard. None of them spoke, unless thought of Fred sitting back there alone in his little house, waiting. Alone. The thought made his throat catch, and he gritted his teeth. Was there another poem beginning in Fred's mind now, he thought? One that started, if a man dies, there's no one there to hold his hand? Oh, stop it, stop the car, Grace cried. Bill pulled over to the curb. I don't want to go down there alone, Grace said miserably. It's not fair to make me go alone. She stopped talking and bit her lip. Oh, goodbye, Mary, and she said, and she kissed her. Goodbye, Ruth, and she kissed her. Then Les and Jenny, and she managed a brief, rueful smile at Bill. I hate you, she said. I love you, he answered. They watched her go back down the block, first walking, then, as she got nearer to the house, half running with a childlike excitement. They saw Fred come to the gate, and then Bill started the car, and he drove away, and they were alone together. You'd never think Fred felt that way, would you? Les said. I don't know, kid. He always used to stay in his garden when he wasn't working. He liked to wear a pair of shorts and a t-shirt and let the sun fall on him when he trimmed the hedges, or mowed the lawn or something. I can understand him feeling the way he does. If he wants to die that way, why not? He's old enough to know what he wants. He grinned. It's Grace that surprises me. Don't you think it's a little unfair of him sort of pushing Grace into staying with him? Ruth asked. What's fair or unfair? Bill said. It's a man's life and a man's love. Where's the book that tells a man how to die and how to love? He turned to the car on Lincoln Boulevard. They reached the entrance a little after noon, and one of the hundreds in the concentrated police force directed them to the field down the road and told them to park there and walk back. Jesus, would you look at those cars, Bill said as he drove slowly along the road that was thick with walking people. Cars, thousands of them. Les thought of the field he'd seen once after World War II. It had been filled with bombers, wing to wing, as far as the eye could see. This was just like it, only these were cars and the war wasn't over. It was just the beginning. Isn't it dangerous to leave all the cars here? Ruth asked. Won't it make a target? Kid, no matter where the bomb falls, it's going to smear everything, Bill said. Besides, said Les, the way the entrances are built, I don't think it matters much where the bomb lands. They all got out and stood for a moment as if they weren't sure exactly what to do. Then Bill said, Well, let's go, and patted the hood of his car. So long, clunk, or rip. In pieces? Les said. There were long lines at each of the 20 desks before the entrance. People filed slowly by and gave their names and addresses and were assigned to various bunker rows. They didn't talk much, they just held their suitcases and moved along with little steps towards the entrance to the tunnels. Ruth held Les's arm with clenched fingers, and he felt a tautness growing around the edges of his stomach, as if the muscles there were slowly calcifying. Each short, undramatic step took them closer to the entrance, further from the sky and the sun and the stars and the moon. And suddenly Les felt very sick and afraid. He wanted to grab Ruth's hand and drive back to their apartment and stay there till it ended. Fred was right. He couldn't help feeling it. Fred was right to know that a man couldn't leave the only home he ever had and burrowed into the earth like a mole and still be himself. Something would happen down there. Something would change. The artificial air, the even banks of bulb sunshine, the electric moon, and the fluorescent stars invented at the behest of some psychological study that foretold aberration if they were taken away completely. Did they suppose these things would be enough? Could they possibly believe that a man might crawl beneath the ground in one great living grave for 20 years and keep his hold? He felt his body tighten involuntarily, and he wanted to scream out all its stupidity in the world that made men scourge themselves to their own destruction. His breath caught, and he glanced at Ruth, and he saw that she was looking at him. "Are you all right?" He drew in a shaking breath. "Yes, all right." He tried to numb his mind, but without success. He kept looking at all the people around him, wondering if they felt, as he did, this fierce anger at what was happening, at what, basically, they had allowed to happen. Did they think, too, of the night before, of the stars and the crisp air and the sounds of the earth? He shook his head. It was torture to think about them. He looked over at Bill as the five of them shuffled slowly down the long concrete ramp to the elevators. Bill was holding Jenny's hand in his, looking down at her without any expression on his face. Then Les saw him turn and nudge Mary with the suitcase he held in his other hand. Mary looked at him, and Bill winked. "Where are we going, Papa?" Jenny asked, and her voice echoed shrilly off the white tile walls. Bill's throat moved. "I told you," he replied. "We're going to live under the ground a while." "How long?" Jenny asked. "Don't talk any more, baby. I don't know." There was no sound in the elevator. There were hundreds of people in it, and it was as still as a tomb as it went down and down and down. That was Descent, a story that follows from Richard Matheson's fascination with humanity's self-destruction. At 28, Matheson was in Los Angeles, submitting to pulps like F&SF, inspired by Korean War reports and Hiroshima fallout that made him ponder our path to ruin. It lampoons his career, war's collective madness clashing with Hollywood pomp, his pulp roots maturing into war's warnings of doom. Writing this in 1954, he drew from Sartre's existentialism and his brother's death, aiming to show how regret defines the end. Behind the scenes, Matheson submitted to magazines, reflecting his frustration with Hollywood's optimistic endings. It's a window into what drew him to horror, the fear that society's flaws lead to dissent, a theme that deepened with civil rights struggles in the 1960s. Matheson's stories of inevitable fall paralleled the movement's battle against systemic injustice, urging resistance before the final curtain. Richard Matheson, the visionary behind Descent, turned the sunset into a mirror of our sins. The story asks, how do we meet the end, and can we alter our path? Join us next time, which you can't, because as it turns out, this is the last one. So, as it turns out, join us for another series at another time. But in the interim, after the show tonight, I'm going live with You Don't Know Jack. So, if you're around, this isn't the future, come join us. Like, subscribe, and good night.
You know you want some turkey. Oh yeah, gobble gobble baby.